Hey everyone, welcome back to Reason and Theology. I want to talk about a segment here from Timothy Gordon and Jay Dyer, who were recently on Tim Pool's channel having a debate. Timothy Gordon representing the Catholic position, Jay Dyer representing the Eastern Orthodox position. I know both of these people. I've interacted with some of their material for years. I've been both on both of their channels. Both have been on my channel. Somewhat have had a rocky history with both of them for a number of reasons. But I still wanted to take a quick look at this interaction between them where they talk about Vatican II, because there's something massive that appears they're both missing. And I'm not exactly sure how they're missing this, but I'm going to have to point it out. And then I'm going to draw some conclusions for you and connect some dots. But it's as if, let's say you had two guys who were debating if Joe Biden killed Epstein or something. I don't know, just some weird thesis, right? Let's just say that there was some group out there that believes Biden killed Epstein. And they go to some transcript for a conversation that Biden had with Hillary Clinton. And they talk a little bit about Epstein in the, transcript, but nothing direct that touches on the question of Epstein's murder or attempting to murder him or something like that. And let's say they go back and forth. These two debaters are back and forth debating whether or not this transcript means that Biden had somehow had something to do with murdering Epstein, right? Meanwhile, let's suppose there's an actual transcript and phone conversation that's publicly available where Biden is speaking in the first person, telling everyone, hey, I killed Epstein. And it's like all over Facebook, all over YouTube. It's in video format, audio. We got transcripts. We got thumbprints. We got social security numbers. We got everything verifying the validity of it, right? It would be weird for two guys to sit there and debate some ambiguous transcript when there's something else out there so much more clear cut that neither of the people appear to know about. That's what is going on here with Timothy Gordon and Jay Dyer. And I'm going to have to point that out. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's take a quick look at a clip here where they're discussing Vatican II and the possibility of salvation, specifically for Hindus. And then I'm going to conveniently point out what they have missed. Let's listen to it together. You should be able to see it on your screen right around now.
I'll speak once he's done. So what the Vatican II document said, I was very honest about.
By the way, it's a genetic fallacy to say that.
Can I see the book?
Yeah.
Read the sentence.
Paragraph right here.
Because Vatican II.
Let me read it again for you.
I was this close to getting the book.
In the religion of Hinduism, people explore the divine mystery.
Explore.
Thank you. I just said that.
This doesn't mean they found it.
Repeat each word after I say each word.
What have you said? Ascertained? If they said ascertained, we'd have a hard time.
Okay, did you hear that? So Jay Dyer is pointing out in Vatican II, it says that Hindus explore the divine mysteries. And here, Timothy Gordon points out, but explore is not the same as ascertain. If they ascertain, we would have a problem. Okay? I want you to follow that point. Listen.
I just want me to read the whole quote because he knows the later, the later part is what he's saying.
The difference between Hindu seeking and finding is very real.
They have recourse to God in confidence and love.
So they start the sentence over. They seek. Jay thinks that the sentence said that Hindus have ascertained the truth. They haven't ascertained it.
It says that through
they're exploring it.
You said it was a bad statement earlier.
No, I said that's not. That's from read the document.
I'm saying that it's very easy to misinterpret. If I say my dear old Uncle Remus believes that he can flap.
Why do we need you to interpret the document?
You're saying
why do we need you to interpret the
we
document?
need you to interpret the document.
That's a well played.
You're giving.
The logic professor keeps making fallacies.
You asked me what I thought.
Why do you need to interpret them?
Let me read it. There's a paragraph before that one. I just want to read the full paragraph.
Good.
Or actually, this is part of the full paragraph. It says, throughout history to the present day, there is found among different peoples a certain awareness of a hidden power, which lies behind the course of nature and the events of human life. At times, there is present even a recognition of a supreme being, or still more of a father. This awareness and recognition results in a way of life that is imbued with a deep religious sense. The religions which are found in more advanced civilizations endeavor by way of well-defined concepts and exact language to answer these questions. Thus, in Hinduism, people explore the divine mystery and express it both in the limitless riches of myth and the accurately defined insights of philosophy. They seek release from the trials of the present life by ascetical practices, profound meditation, and recourse to God in confidence and love. Buddhism, in its various forms, testifies to the essential inadequacy of this changing world. It proposes a way of life by which people can, with confidence and trust, attain a state of perfect liberation and reach supreme illumination either through their own efforts or with divine help.
This is, by the way, the exact quote that Taylor Marshall infamously quoted from Vatican II. And this is the one where he says Vatican II teaches the heresy of Pelagianism. So this is that infamous part where Taylor Marshall, a Catholic, says that the most recent ecumenical council teaches heresy. Yes, you have Catholic content creators who believe the Catholic magisterium teaches heresy. That's correct. Catholics who say that the Catholic Church teaches heresy. Believe it or not, they're not Protestants, they're Catholics.
So too, other religions which are found throughout the world attempt in different ways to overcome the restlessness of people's hearts by outlining a program of life covering doctrine, moral precepts, and sacred rites.
Yeah, this
Is there perfect liberation in Buddhism?
Now, real quick, I do want to read just a little bit. I did want to read the one paragraph. There's a little bit more that I think is interesting.
You already said it's bad.
It goes on.
You said it was badly worded.
It now answers
because people like
Then
you
it's
go ape shit.
so people like me, right? So again, another fallacy. Ad hominem.
So it actually
five fallacies, Tim. Good job.
It actually says here.
Do we have a mute button?
Immediately follow.
Yeah, because he's calling out. I'm calling out the
guys.
logic professor's fallacies.
I just want to point out that by that, okay.
Sorry to do it. But immediately following this paragraph, it says the Catholic Church rejects nothing of what is true and holy in these religions.
There it is.
There's a high regard for the manner of life and conduct, the precepts and doctrines which, although differing in many ways from its own teaching, nevertheless often reflect a ray of that truth which enlightens all men and women. Yet it proclaims and is in duty bound to proclaim without fail Christ, who is the way, the truth, and life. In him, in whom God reconciled all things to himself, people find the fullness of their religious life.
Thank you. I was going to ask.
I don't know
so I
what you
could
think.
read that.
All that shows is a
like-
contradiction.
No, no.
that doesn't help you
I
out.
actually agree with the Catholic view. It's basically saying the way I interpret that is it's saying Hindus and Buddhists are looking through a keyhole and seeing these fragments that they're not quite understanding properly. And
Right.
if they were to adhere to Jesus Christ and find the way,
Precisely.
The
what
problem
it
is
that,
not-
and that's
the
precisely what all
problem-
the even
that's-
non.
I'll just say this real quick. That which I read is more convincing to me of the Catholics.
Well, then-
I would agree if
then
not
you-
for the fact that it says Muslims worship the same God. As
Correct.
I
It
think
doesn't
that-
say
I
same
think it
God.
does.
He
But-
checked
but-
it.
No, hold on.
Jay,
It does say, together with us, they adore the one God, is what Vatican II Lumen Gentium says. You can't get around that. Timothy Gordon does not know what he's talking about. And throw out Vatican II because the magisterium says that elsewhere anyway. Pope Leo, by the way, just said that. Just FYI. Pope Leo the 14th just said that in his magisterium, by the way. So did Pope Francis and many others. So even if you want to quibble over Vatican II on that point, it's a no-go because other magisterial documents say it. But no, actually, yes, Vatican II does say, together with us, they adore the one God. That's a direct quote from Lumen Gentium 16. I've been through it numerous times with y'all. Not going to rehash that one. But my commentary on this entire thing is coming. Let's push through the next 30 seconds.
Does it
It
say
says
same?
the same. Yes,
It doesn't say the word same.
It doesn't,
Okay, but hold on.
Are you
It doesn't
serious?
literally
the one
say
God.
the same,
Hey,
but
guys,
it does
guys,
grammatically say
Who's
the
making
same.
shit up?
Who's the creator, Tim?
Wait,
Who's the creator?
I
does
think
it say
it's correct.
same?
It
Who's
says
the creator?
God. It says they worship
we'll check
God.
it.
Capital
Who's the
G,
People out there,
capital God.
because this passage.
Who is
don't
the
just yell into
creator?
the microphone if no one else is, if people keep talking. I think it's correct.
Okay, but
I think Muslims do worship God.
They don't.
they don't. But
Not our
I do.
God.
So he already admitted.
Right, and so
But that says capital G God.
that's why this is convincing to me, and you guys aren't being convincing.
But-
to me. I'll tell you what.
All right, so they're all over the place, and even Jay Dyer's being inconsistent. Jay Dyer needs to listen to his own patriarch Kirill, who actually says that Muslims and Christians worship the same God. I've shown that previously on this channel, so I'm not going to rehash it here. Of course, he'll say, well, our patriarchs aren't infallible. Yeah, but you're in communion with a guy who says that they worship the same God. So it's kind of the same thing as for Catholics. So it's the same predicament. However, yes, it does very clearly say that in Lumen Gentium 16. Just to recap for the 1000th time on this particular point, you have it right here where it talks about it in paragraph 16 towards the middle. Let me get to the particular part. In the first place, amongst those, there are the Muslims who, professing to hold the faith of Abraham, along with us, adore the one and merciful God. And that is based on Popes actually from the medieval period saying the same thing, and again, popes after Vatican II said the same thing. Most recently, Pope Leo XIV has said this. There's no way around it. By the way, it's in the context of saying the plan of salvation includes the Muslims. Okay, that's the context for this passage, to make things even more complex, which is actually to my point. Here's what's wild. Okay, so they're quibbling over Nostra Aetate by the Second Vatican Council, and they're quibbling over the part on the section about Hinduism. So if you go to, I think it's paragraph 2 or 3, let's see. Yeah, 2, thus in Hinduism. They read that whole section, right? And if you look at the section, it's not clear if it's saying that they actually attain salvation by remaining Hindus, or if it's saying that they just have a ray of truth in their religion and that might lead them to Christianity and they'll then be saved by converting to Christianity. It's not clear either way. It just says that Hindus are pursuing the divine mysteries. They're trying to attain this state of divine illumination, as are the Buddhists. But the Catholic Church rejects nothing that's true and good and beautiful in these religions, and they have a reflection of that which is true and good, but the church still proclaims that Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. Okay, so there's multiple ways to read that. Is it saying that the true and good and beautiful in their religions just leads them to Christianity and then they convert? Or is it saying that the true and good and beautiful in their Hindu religion is what leads them to be saved, and thus they can be saved as Hindus? It doesn't say. Now, what J. Dyer is trying to argue is he's trying to say that it's indicating you can be saved as a Hindu. Whereas you saw Timothy Gordon is saying, no, it's not saying that. It's just saying that, you know, they're seeking these things out. They're seeking out salvation, but it doesn't mean that they attain it. And you heard him say, but if it said that they attain it, there would be a problem. Okay, here's where neither one of them appear to be well informed about the magisterium. And I've pointed this out. Both of them don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the magisterium numerous times in previous videos. Here's yet another example. How in the world are they missing other documents of the magisterium that do explicitly state that people of other religions can be saved by following the elements that are in their religions and rituals that are true? You heard that right. As I've pointed out previously on the show, in an exhaustive video on the question of outside the church, there is no salvation. Let me actually point you to the title so you can go and watch it. I'll give a quick recap right now and show you where I'm going with this, but let me remind you of the video if you want a deeper explanation. It's called Outside the Church, There is No Salvation, a comprehensive explanation. And I go through all the important primary sources. And I'm going to point out to you what they are missing, both of them. They are missing 2 different statements from the magisterium that both explicitly say that people of other religions can be saved by remaining in their other religion. So Hindus can be saved by remaining Hindus and practicing Hindu rituals. I'll explain to you how the Vatican tries to explain that, but it explicitly says that. Ratzinger explicitly says that. Several magisterial documents explicitly say that. So it's saying Hindus can be saved by practicing their Hindu rituals and religion and culture. Muslims can be saved by practicing their Muslim religion and culture. Pagans of whatever sort can be saved by practicing and worshiping in their pagan rituals. How? How does it say that? Well, you saw a glimpse of it there in Nostra Aetate. It wants to say that there are some good elements in Hindu rituals and Hindu worship, or in pagan rituals and pagan worship, or in Muslim worship and in Muslim religion. It says there are some good and true elements in it. And by them following those aspects of their religion and worship, they can be saved. Not that it's the religion itself that saves them, but what happens is Jesus saves them and the Holy Spirit gives them grace through the rituals of their pagan worship, whatever's good in that pagan worship, the Holy Spirit gives them grace through that. Not ex opere operato, not like the sacraments it says, but still by them being faithful to what they know, the Holy Spirit gives them the grace of salvation through worshiping the god Ganesh or something in some kind of way that might be good and true and beautiful. That's whether you like it or not, that is the Catholic position. And I've demonstrated that numerous times. I'll show you again 2 documents that explicitly state that. And I want to point out, why did both of these guys appear to be completely ignorant about this? Why go and talk about Nostra Aetate or Aetate and have that conversation about that document when it's not clear, but other magisterial documents are very clear on this point? To me, this actually could have been a slam dunk for Jay Dyer. Just pointing that out. I mean, Jay could have easily pointed these other things out if he was aware of them. Evidently, all those sticky notes that he has in his Vatican II book there did not reference these other magisterial statements. And it also appears that Timothy Gordon is just like, the whole thing goes over his head. He's just not aware. All right, so let me show you these documents in question. First of all, here's Ratzinger, and this is a magisterial document. It's not like some kind of unofficial magisterial source. This is magisterial. This is from the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith under Ratzinger, who was Benedict XVI. You can clearly see Cardinal Ratzinger. Guess who signed off on it? John Paul II. So he gave approval to it in common form. Paragraph 18 of Donum Veritatis explicitly states this means it's magisterial. Donum Veritatis, paragraph 18. So don't come back and say, but Michael, it isn't magisterial. Yes, it is. According to the magisterium, this is magisterial. Now, watch what it says. Ratzinger and the magisterium have concluded that it is therefore legitimate to maintain that the Holy Spirit accomplishes salvation in non-Christians also through those elements of truth and goodness present in those various religions. So what the magisterium is trying to say is it's not just that there's some good and true elements in these other religions that leads them to convert to Christianity. No, it's saying that rather the Holy Spirit can save these people through the good elements in their false religion. So while you have some Hindu who's bowing down to his idol, praying to Ganesh, whatever true element might be in there, the Holy Spirit saves them through that. Or whether you have some, pagan from Old Testament times bowing down to a statue of Baal, whatever good and true element that is involved in Baal worship, the Holy Spirit can save them. Now, again, you might not like this. You might say, that's horrific. That sounds ridiculous. I'm just a messenger. Take it up with the magisterium. I'm just telling you what the magisterium says. Don't argue with me. Argue with the text. Your problem is not with me. Your problem is with the text. Make it about a conversation about the text, not with me. All right. Now, this is again from a magisterial document that is entitled Notification on the Book Towards a Christian Theology of Religion Pluralism by Father Jacques Dupois, S.J. And they try to put some guardrails in here, and they try to modify it and nuance it. But at the end of the day, the conclusion is that the Holy Spirit is saving these pagans and other people in other religions through the elements that are in their religions so they can be saved in those religions. So a Hindu remains Hindu, and yet he's mystically united to the church. He's mystically united to Christianity. He's part of the one true church outside of which nobody is saved, while he's still a Hindu bowing down to some god named Ganesh. Okay, that's the teaching, whether you like it or not. It does try to qualify it and say, however, it's not the religions themselves that save them. It's rather God through those elements that saves it. And it also elsewhere tries to qualify. It's not, and this is in other documents from Ratzinger, especially under John Paul II, Dominus Jesus specifically, that says, well, it's not like a grace of the Holy Spirit is coming to them that's ex operato like the sacraments. So that's why they still need to convert to Catholic Church, because it's a much more secure way for them to be saved. But they can still receive that grace, not ex operato, but just because of their fidelity to whatever true and good and beautiful elements there are in their pagan worship. Okay, so it tries to, make some qualifications, but the net result is a Hindu can be saved as a Hindu. and not even know anything about Christianity and can still be saved as such. A Muslim can be saved as a Muslim and not know anything about Christianity and be saved as such. That is the position of the Catholic Church. Here's another one for you. This is an ITC document that was just prior to Dominus Iesus, International Theological Commission, Christianity and the World Religions, 1997. By the way, that notification that I just showed you is after Dominus Iesus. So don't come back to me and say, but Michael, Dominus Iesus says. Yes, I know what Dominus Iesus says. Everything I've said so far is compatible with Dominus Iesus. And by the way, this document is a year after Dominus Iesus. So you can't really just come back with that and, think that somehow Dominus Iesus saves the day. No, it doesn't. It actually confirms what I'm telling you. But if you scroll down to paragraph 84, watch what it explicitly says. Given this explicit recognition of the presence of the Spirit of Christ in the religions, one cannot exclude the possibility that they exercise as such a certain salvific function. That is, despite their ambiguity, they help men achieve their ultimate end. What's the ultimate end? Heaven, salvation. So there you go. It's outright explicitly saying that it's Jesus who saves pagans through the good elements in pagan worship. And it is clear. It's not just the individuals. It's through their culture and their religion. That's clear here. On the other hand, it's necessary to note that many of the texts to which we've referred not only speak of all the religions, but also in conjunction with them. They speak of cultures, the histories of people. It would be difficult to think that what the Holy Spirit works in the hearts of men taken as individuals would have salvific value, and not think that the Holy Spirit works in the religions and cultures would not have such value. It's clear the Holy Spirit is working in the religion itself. Now, elsewhere, Dominus Iesus wants to walk that back a little bit. And it wants to say, in some sense, the Holy Spirit's working in these religions, but in some other sense, he's not working in these religions. And they don't go to explain exactly how, but there is that tension even within Dominus Iesus. I've explored all this with y'all before in that previous video. Outside the church, there is no salvation, a comprehensive explanation. But here I'm pointing to you two examples, one of them which is clearly magisterial, explicitly so, that is saying that Hindus can be saved as Hindus. And it's not that Hinduism saves them, it's that Jesus saves them through that. It's the Holy Spirit gives them grace through that. Okay, so what seemed odd to me is they're having this conversation about Nostra Aetate, which isn't really clear one way or another on this particular point. Are they being saved by the elements in Hinduism themselves as such? Or is it that those things are just leading them to the truth? And then they become formally, they convert to Christianity. It doesn't say either way. But why are they sitting there arguing with that? And why isn't Jay Dyer actually pointing these points out? And why isn't Timothy Gordon seemingly aware of it? Because you saw him say, well, if Nostra Aetate actually says this, that would be a problem. Okay, well, it doesn't say it, but other magisterial documents do say it. And by the way, guess what they're basing it on? What do you think they're basing that claim on? You guessed it, this very document from Nostra Aetate. This is why the popes have interpreted Nostra Aetate as what I just showed you, as a person can be saved through the elements of paganism that are good, true, and beautiful, and can be saved as such, and remain a Hindu their entire life and still be saved as a Hindu, bowing down to some pagan deity. Again, like it or not, I'm just telling you what it says, but I found the conversation fascinating because it's like watching the blind leading the blind, which is always how every episode of anything I've ever seen from Timothy Gordon or Jay Dyer on anything about the magisterium has always gone down. It's the blind leading the blind. They're stumbling their way through the dark, have no idea what they're talking about. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting here scratching my head thinking, how do you not know this other stuff? How does Jay Dyer not actually know this and bring it up? How does Timothy Gordon not know what he just said actually indicts him elsewhere? What's going on here? How does this happen? These guys are supposed to be like professional apologists? They're supposed to do this for a living and they don't know this? And it has to be me who comes along and says that. But let me add a little bit more complexity here. It was Timothy Gordon who mocked me for years and made fun of me as a Pope splainer, right? It was Timothy Gordon. And among others, many others, but he was the one that created that idea. Okay. And mocked me as one who just tries to explain away things. Okay. Well, let me put it to you like this. In light of what I just showed, let me toss it back to Timothy Gordon. Let me say this. Timothy, you're between a rock and a hard place at this point. Because what I just did is I left you with two options, neither of which you're going to like. Number one, you either admit what I just said about the magisterium and say, yeah, that's what the magisterium says, and I don't agree with it, and the magisterium teaches heresy. And you now lend your voice to Eastern Orthodoxy. Because by doing that, you will be giving Dyer exactly what he wants. So you can either aid the Eastern Orthodox, or guess what, Tim? You can become a Pope splainer, and you can now explain how the magisterium teaches all these things. Or you can explain how the Catholic Church is still divinely established as an institution, guided by the Holy Spirit, and yet the magisterium is also teaching what you would deem to be heresy. Go ahead and explain that one. Maybe council explain that. Pope explain it. Magisterium explain it for us, Tim. And welcome aboard. You've now become a Pope splainer, the very thing that you've ridiculed in me for years. So what I just did is I just lobbed this back to you, and I want to see how you address it. Because if you address it either way, you just shot yourself in the face. You can either help the Eastern Orthodox and shoot yourself in the face, or you could shoot yourself in the face by becoming the very thing that you just mocked in me for years to come. That's going to do it. I'm out.